invitation for us to be accountable to our stewardship under the administration of our boss President Muhammad Buhari GCFR. I begin by showing my appreciation to our boss President Muhammad Buhari GCFR, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, for giving us the opportunity as citizens to serve our country in this capacity. Most importantly, as the Minister in charge of our communications and digital economy sector. Furthermore, I also use the opportunity to appreciate the AVC Professional Forum for extending an invitation to us to come here and x-ray our achievements, or rather our modest achievements within the period we have taken over the supervision of this very important sector. I am most appreciative of the invitation and the opportunity given. I also use the opportunity to appreciate our fellow citizens, other Nigerians, for the support they have been extending to this administration, their observations, recommendations, and even constructive criticism for us to take our country to greater heights. That is also most appreciated indeed. In order to make my presentation much easier, and at the same time to allow our citizens to appreciate the beauty of our presentation, I will just follow a simple three-step algorithm based on the three priority areas of the current administration, starting with number one, economic development, number two, transparency and fighting corruption, number three, security. These are the three priority areas of the current administration of President Muhammad Buhari. So I will try to make my presentation within these three areas, and I do hope that that will make us to appreciate the gist of the presentation. Starting with economic development, the MC, or rather the facilitator of the event, has outlined some statistics about the position of global economy, global digital economy today. He came up with some examples of Amazon, Microsoft, and many more. World Economic Forum has stated that by 2022, a minimum of 60% of the global economy is going to be digitalized. That is, by next year, a minimum of 60% of global economy is going to be a digital economy. By 2016, Oxford Economics said that the global digital economy was estimated at 11.6 trillion USD. As it is today, the current estimate of global economy as at November 2020 was more than 24%. This is to show to us that the most important economy today globally is the digital economy. Why? Because digital economy is not just an independent economy, but rather it is the key enabler of all other sectors. It is the key enabler of all other sectors. It is not just an independent sector, but each and every sector of our economy needs digitalization. So by digitalizing education, digitalizing health, by digitalizing commerce, by digitalizing tourism, by digitalizing all other sectors, you will discover that digital economy is not just an independent economy, but rather it is the key enabler that makes other sectors to be successful. It is because of this, when we came on board and Mr. President has assigned portfolios to us, on 21st August 2019, we discovered that digital economy was officially missing in our country. Part of the initiatives of the current administration is to redesignate the ministry from Ministry of Communications to Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy. And it is part of the plan of current administration of leveraging other sectors to diversify our economy. And it is because of this, Mr. President approved the redesignation of the ministry on 17 October 2019, and it was presented before the Federal Executive Council on 23rd October 2019, and the proper implementation of digital economy in Nigeria started on 24th October 2019. The mandate given to us by Mr. President immediately is to ensure that we leverage on digital technologies to diversify our economy. Because for many decades, our country has been relying so much on oil and gas. We are grateful to the sector, but we discovered that there was need to leverage other sectors to diversify our economy, to avoid putting all our eggs in one basket. We came up with so many policies, and these policies we have developed with the directives of Mr. President are to support our administration to achieve these three key priority areas: economic development, fighting corruption, and to promote security. I will go through the policy superficially. Within this period of time, which is less than 2 years, we have developed over a dozen policies. And not only the development of the policies, all of them have been implemented. Some of them have been implemented over 80% as of today. The policies we have developed, number one, which is the most important and is the umbrella of all other policies, is National Digital Economy Policy Strategy for a Digital Nigeria, 2020-2030. In this policy, there are 8 pillars. Pillar number 1 is developmental regulation. Pillar number 2 is digital skills. Pillar number 3 is solid infrastructure. Pillar number 4 is service infrastructure. Pillar number 5 is digital services promotion and development. Pillar number 6 is soft infrastructure. Pillar number 7 is digital society and emerging technologies. And the last pillar is indigenous content development and promotion. All the remaining policies to be discussed, you will discover they are only cascading these 8 pillars for easy implementation. Policy number 2 we have developed is the roadmap for the implementation of index. That roadmap is to guide the relevant parastatals on how the National Digital Economy Policy or Strategy is to be implemented. Policy number 3 was Nigerian National Broadband Plan 2020-2025. When we took over the stewardship of the sector, there wasn't any valid broadband plan in the country. The country did not have any valid broadband plan. So immediately, with the directives of Mr. President, we assembled a team of experts from the private and public sector, academia, and many more. And we came up with Nigerian National Broadband Plan. This broadband plan is to ensure broadband penetration in our country. The first broadband that came to Nigeria was in 2000. In 2019, within 19 years, the broadband penetration in Nigeria was 33%. Averagely, you will discover the broadband penetration was 1.7% annually. However, from 2015 to 2019, within the first administration of President Muhammad Buhari, the penetration increased from 1.7 to 5%. But from 2019 September, when we took over, to November 2020, little more than a year, the broadband penetration catapulted from 33% to more than 45%. More than 10% increase within less than a year. And according to International Telecommunications Union, World Economic Forum, Ericsson, and many more, 10% broadband penetration will increase a country's gross domestic product by a minimum of 1.6 to up to 8.6%. And with the broadband penetration increase within the first 1 year we spent in office, we definitely saw it, the increase in our GDP in the country. So that more than 10% increase in broadband penetration was unprecedented in the country. Furthermore, based on the report submitted to my office by EBC-LCC, the price of our data, 1 gigabyte of broadband as at January 2020 was 1,000 naira. The directives given to us by Mr. President is to ensure that the price of data comes down. By January 2021, within a year, the average price of data, based on the report submitted to my office by NCC, was 487 naira, more than 60% reduction, or more than 50% reduction in the price of 1 gigabyte of data in this country. What? In the Nigerian National Broadband Plan, our target in that plan is to ensure that within the time that our boss will spend in office, this country based on our population, and based on our landmass, we want to achieve a minimum of 70%. But population, we are targeting 90%. In urban cities, we want to have a minimum of 25 MB per second, while in rural areas, our plan is to achieve a minimum of 10% broadband MB per second. As at September 2019, the cluster access gaps in this country was 207 in total. There were 207 access gaps, with a population of around 50 million people without any access to telecommunications facilities. But as at January 2021, the cluster access gap was 114, a reduction of over 90%, about 90 cluster access gaps. Support our country in the area of economic development, while all other sectors today need broadband penetration to be operational and be successful as well. Policy number 4 we have developed, which has been launched recently by Mr. President, is a national policy on the indigenous content promotion in the telecommunications sector. This is policy number 4. This policy aims to achieve that, as Mr. President always says, we produce what we consume and we consume what we produce. Our understanding with his statement is not just the literal interpretation, but rather it is that we manufacture what we need as Nigerians and what we want as Nigerians, and we also patronize what we manufacture. In order to practicalize the statement of Mr. President, we came up with a policy, and that policy targets that we want Nigeria in the next 2 to 3 years, that a minimum of 60 to 70% of what we need in the telecommunications sector is going to be produced locally. We have started doing that. When this administration came on board, even SIM cards was imported to Nigeria. But as it is today, we have established a manufacturing plant, Secure ID in Lagos. Federal government provided the enabling environment for the private sector. As it is today, we have the capacity to produce SIM card not only for our consumption, but for the entire African nation. Federal government of Nigeria was represented by me, and I delegated EBC with MD Niche Concert and MD Galaxy. They traveled to the manufacturing plant. They submitted the certificate of manufacturing SIM card in Nigeria, and they have started the process. We have a capacity that we can produce a minimum of 200 million SIMs annually. We have established so far, with the support of the federal government, private sector was provided the enabling environment to start the production of smartphones. Today in Nigeria, we are producing smartphones. When it comes to software patronage, by the time we came on board, more than 98% of software being used by the sector was imported. As it is today, we reduce it significantly by more than 40%. So it is because of this we came up with this policy. Furthermore, policy number 5 is national policy on NIN and SIM registration. I will speak on this policy when I reach the third pillar or the third priority area of the current administration. This is the policy of verifying national identification number with your SIM. This national identification number has been established by law since 2007, but it was not implemented. 14 years without implementation. And 8 years before the coming of this administration, it was not implemented. But based on our background, any law must be implemented. And it is because of this we started the process of implementing the national identification number. No country will sit down without having a complete database of its citizens and legal residents. In the US, they have what they call social security number. And that is why in Nigeria we have national identification number. In the United Kingdom, they have national insurance number, and that is why we have NIN in Nigeria. Even in India, with their population of around 1.2 billion, they have Aadhaar number, and we have NIN in Nigeria. If you go to a country like Pakistan, they have what they call Nadra number, and in Nigeria we have NIN number. This is the example. There are over 60 countries in the world, they have their national identification number. And this is the number that will guide our country in education, in national planning, in budget, in health, in security, in economic development, in whatever we do. We cannot continue to live in a country that we are estimating our population with plus minus 10 million, which is enough to be a population of another country. We must have a complete database that will guide government in national planning, in budget, when it comes to education, it comes to health, it comes to economic development, whatever we do, we must have a complete database. That is the global best practice. Policy number 6 is National Digital Innovation, Entrepreneurship and Startup Policy. This policy is to identify our young innovators all over the country, because Nigerians are highly intelligent. They are indeed intellectuals. What they need is government support, mentorship, guidance and counseling to be successful. And digital innovation and digital entrepreneurship are the two prerequisites to indigenous digital economy. It is because of this we have been working on this policy to identify our young innovators, bring them together, incubate their ideas, mentor them, and at the same time deploy and use what they innovate. Policy number 7 is National Policy on Visa Installation for Nigerians. We discovered there was a huge gap in this country when it comes to visa installation. People are coming from neighboring countries to install visa for us. We started developing the policy so that we can produce enough capacity to patronize that. We did the training in around 12 states today. One of the participants of our training, he participated in the training, he got the skills, hands-on. Within less than a month, his state government gave him a project, a contract of over 80 million naira to install visa for them. Before the training, he was not even able to take care of him to even get 10,000 naira. But after the training, he reached out to the traders and said, this is what I have received from my state government. A contract of over 80 million naira. So now we have conducted the training in around 12 states. And our plan is to ensure that the training is extended to each and every step of the federation, including FCT. And these 12 steps, we do in 2 steps in each zone. 2 steps in each zone. And this is what we have been doing. When it comes to intervention capacity building, we as Nigerians, based on the directives of our boss, we go to each and every part of the country to build the capacity or support our citizens where that is required. Policy number 8 is national policy for digital ID, on digital ID for internally displaced persons. This is another policy in which the current administration has started collecting the information and the biodata of our citizens living in IDPs. Most of them are recruited to commit crimes. Most of them do not have any form of identification. It is because of this federal government came up with this policy to provide that the same national identification number for them. Because of what? Because they didn't have any form of identification. This will guide government in resettling them, will guide government in supporting their education and health, will also guide government in taking care of their education. Policy number 9 is national policy on virtual engagements in the federal public institution. COVID-19 pandemic came up and many nations in the world were locked down, Nigeria inclusive. This policy that we developed was to institutionalize virtual activities in the federal public institutions. And the policy was approved by the Federal Executive Council. And it is because of this today, our virtual meetings we conduct is not just an informal meeting, but rather they are formal. Government has institutionalized virtual activities today. And there are many benefits of that. Saving time, saving cost, and many more. Mr. President has directed the Office of the Head of the Civil Service of the Federation to ensure that the policy has been accommodated and incorporated into our public service rules in the country, so that now henceforth our virtual engagements are formal engagements. I can recall Secretary to the Government of the Federation once said when we started the virtual engagements, looking at the total number of approvals they used to give before the lockdown, when we started, he said, within few months, federal government saved over 1.something billion naira through that virtual engagement. And this is only from his office, not to talk of other institutions. This is only from his office, not other institutions. And it is the same in each and every institution or sector. Furthermore, we have also developed national policy on communication system. It is in draft form, and we are at the end of concluding the policy. These are some of the policies that the current administration has developed, and all of them are to support the 3 key priority areas of economic development, fighting corruption, and promoting security in our country. When it comes to economic development, with all sense of modesty, communications and digital economy sector has been contributing a lot, particularly from within the period of the current administration, and particularly after redesignating the ministry. For example, the best way to identify the performance of nation's economy is through gross domestic product. This is the best way to measure it. In the second quarter of 2020, ICT sector alone, ICT sector was the fastest growing sector of our economy in the country. The fastest growing sector of our economy. ICT sector grew by 14.70%. This is the growth rate, not the total contribution. The growth rate was 14.70%, occupying the first position, while the growth rate of the second sector was 3%. So ICT sector grew more than 4 times the second sector of our economy. Furthermore, if you look at the 7 most performing sectors, the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and 7th sectors combined together, all the remaining 6 combined together, their performance was not up to that of ICT sector. Because ICT sector grew by 14.70, while all the remaining 6 most performing sectors combined together grew by 14.21%. In the first quarter of 2021, ICT sector retained the same position. National Bureau of Statistics released the report only 2 weeks ago. Going through the report, the fastest growing sector is the same ICT sector. This is to show to us how the sector has been contributing to the economy of our nation. I don't want to comment more on it, but even the remittance of the sector to our tax collecting institutions is unprecedented, because we are able to block so many leakages in the sector. And when I speak on fighting corruption, I hope I will be reminded to give another example. The remittance is unprecedented. I have the complete statistics of what we have been remitting to government through NCC and others, and what we have been supervising the ICT institutions and private sector to be paying to government through FIRS. If you go, you will discover that the remittance is unprecedented. This is, in summary, supporting economic development. Furthermore, under the same economic development, we have been training our citizens, providing digital skills for them to be digital entrepreneurs. We come up with so many categories of our training. Training for youth, training for ICT for women, ICT for people with disabilities. We have been training citizens with disabilities. We have conducted the training in at least 7 locations. Some of the beneficiaries of this training with disabilities have established their ICT centers today in Nigeria. Federal government trained them, federal government provided seed fund for them, and federal government provided all the facilities they need to start their entrepreneurship. Even during lockdown, in order to ensure that our citizens utilize their time effectively, we established 2 virtual institutions for free, where world-class recognized certifications are being given, and the training is ongoing. We established Digital Nigeria Portal, and we established Digital NIN Portal. These 2 institutions, through both of them, as at end of April, we have trained over 210,000 Nigerians. And they have received world-class certifications because the training is in collaboration with multi-giants like Microsoft, like Cisco, Huawei, IBM, and many more. The certificates or the certification given to our citizens are recognized globally, and the training is for free to all our citizens. In addition, establishing ICT centers like knowledge-based centers, digital economy center, digital Nigeria center. National Secretary may wish to know that within less than 2 years from August 2019 to date, through the ministry and its parastatals, federal government has established and completed over 300 ICT centers in this country. Over 300 centers in this country. And these centers are in each and every state of the Federation, including FCT. There is no single state in the country that we have not established centers on behalf of the federal government of Nigeria. And these centers are for citizens. And these centers are not counter-funded. They have been funded by the federal government 100%. And they have been donated to institutions or communities for free. And this is in the area of infrastructure to support economic development and build the capacity of our citizens. Because of time constraint, let me move to the second priority area. That is the area of fighting corruption. As we all know, e-governance is one of the most effective ways of fighting corruption. And that is why the current administration is passionate about driving e-governance. Firstly, we have national e-government master plan in place. Secondly, to build the capacity of our civil servants and even public officers. With the support of the South Korean government, the federal government of Nigeria has established a world-class national e-government center at the Federal Public Institute here in Abuja, where civil servants are being trained on e-governance. It is a world-class center that has been established in collaboration with the South Korean government. And we have been training our civil servants in batches to build their capacity. It is part of that also, we developed even the national policy on virtual engagements in the Federal Public Institution. Today, before we used to travel from one state to another to commission all the projects. We used to travel to Lagos, to Port Harcourt, Akwa Ibom, to Imo, to Borno, to Kano, Kaduna, Sokoto to commission projects. Sometimes in one trip, maybe 20 staff could travel. Look at the amount to be spent, DTA, airfare, sometimes other expenses. But today we even commission projects virtually. We sit down in one place, we link up with 10 or 15 projects from other states, and we commission them virtually. Through this process, we have been saving a lot of money. Before CEOs used to get DTA to travel weekly to commission projects, but today we can spend 3-4 months without even traveling to Kenya in Nasarawa State. Why? Because we only sit in the comfort of our office and commission the projects. Part of fighting corruption through e-governance, the current administration has reactivated what we call IT project clearance. And we have developed national IT project clearance in federal public institutions, where all ICT projects to be executed must be submitted through the portal to ensure the specification is okay, the amount to be spent on that project is justifiable. Through that process of IT project clearance, as at 15th of March 2021, we have saved over 22.4 billion naira for the federal government of Nigeria. Over 22.4 billion naira. This is the amount that has been saved, not to talk about the technical value that has been added to the project. And the process of even clearing the project is free. You only submit the project, we review it, we ensure that there is justification for the project, we ensure that the entire life cycle system analysis and design has been followed, and the amount is justifiable. We have saved over 22.4 billion naira as at the middle of March 2021. The policy was in place before the coming of this administration, but it has never been used. It has never been used through history. It was only the current administration that reactivated the policy and implemented it. As at middle of March, over 727 federal institutions have registered, and over 323 major projects have been cleared. Some of them have been implemented, and some of them are being implemented today. In fighting corruption, one of the major things we have discovered when we came on board, government spectrums and frequencies were allocated for free, and there was no justification. When we came on board, we discovered that one of the most important resources of our country was given for free without any official documentation to a private institution. And the price of that was valued at over 28 billion naira. We contacted the regulator NCC. Where was the approval? EBC confirmed that this is what we inherited even before we were appointed. And I said we cannot ignore this. Government needs money to help and support citizens. We formalized it, and we asked for justification of taking the spectrum for free. No, we mandated them through NCC that the money must be paid. As at today, the company has agreed to pay 28 billion naira. Not only has agreed, they have started the payment. The first deposit they did was how much? They immediately, as at last year, they immediately remitted 5 billion naira to federal government. And the second installment, I could not recall vividly, but it's around the same 5 billion they have paid. So now we are in the process of receiving government money, which is, I think, around 28 billion or thereabout. And this is one out of many. It's just an example. When we inherit, somebody will just sit down without anything, will say, okay, you are my friend, you have been given this spectrum. A spectrum of around 28 billion will be given to somebody, but President Buhari has stopped it completely. From the time he appointed us to supervise the sector to date, nobody has ever been given that. You have to come and pay so that the money will be used in supporting our citizens, building infrastructure in the country, promoting our education and health sector, and many more. This is only one example out of many. Not to talk of blocking leakages, that we have blocked so many leakages. Some of them are not even for public, it's not even important to say, but we have blocked them. So what is important, it is not business as usual. It is not business as usual. With the leadership of President Muhammad Buhari, that cannot be ignored. Because of time constraint, let me move to the third priority area, which is supporting security. In the Federal Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy, security is not our mandate. But what we discover, since we have been appointed by President Muhammad Buhari, and security that he comes up with, it is because of this, in the administration and in our leadership, we always say security is even more important in economic development. Because based on the Constitution of Nigeria 1999 as amended, Section 14, subsection 2, under Article B, that security and welfare of the people is the primary responsibility of government. It is because of this we have made it clear to all stakeholders in the sector that when there is clash of interest between security and economic development, our priority and preference is that security, not economic development. Security cannot be involved. Security cannot be compromised because of economic development. It should be our priority and preference. We have come up with so many policies in order to support security institutions. Number one, for example, when I was assigned to supervise the sector on 21st August 2019, unregistered SIMs, pre-registered SIMs, partial registered SIMs were being used in perpetrating and perpetuating crime in the country. Yes. Nobody knew even the total number of unregistered SIMs. Within less than 15 days in office, we have engaged NCC as the regulator, and we have directed them to carry audit exercise to come up with unregistered and partial registered SIMs. They came up with around 9.4 million in this country, which is enough to be a population of another country. It was the first time we even knew the total number of unregistered or pre-registered SIMs in the country. And we go further and directed NCC to ensure that by 25th September 2019, that is only 1 month and 4 days in office I spent there, to ensure that by the end of 25th September 2021, no single unregistered SIM on our network. NCC as the regulator implemented that effectively. Go through history, go through news. From end of September 2019, October, November, December, January, February 2020, you will discover even kidnapping and banditry reduced to the minimum, to the barest minimum. It was the time that in public you can spend 1 month or more without hearing anything about kidnapping. The more you come up with policies to make the system effective, the more criminals will come up with another strategy to compromise the policy. So it is because of this they came up with another approach where they used to engage agents registering SIMs in Nigeria. These agents are not employees of the federal government. They were employees of usually of mobile network operators. So they come, some of them, not all, some of them, let us be fair to them, some of them not all compromise the process to the extent that they used to invite somebody, give him certain amount of money, and say, we will use your biometric to register some SIMs. They will go online and find any image they get, fix it at the passport, use biometric of one person to register 100 SIMs. When you come to buy SIM, they will say, okay, if you need pre-registered SIM, you will add this amount of money on it. We will give you. If you need to present your biometric, then you can buy the cheapest. So criminals exploited that. They were buying pre-registered SIM. Then the federal government of Nigeria came up with another policy, that is national policy on national identification and SIM registration, to ensure that your biometric on your SIM is the same with your biometric in the national database, so that somebody could not go and use your passport photograph or someone's biometric to register SIM and commit crime. So if you are innocent, you have no problem to present your biometric. If you need biometric, I can give you even here, there's no problem. Come and take it. But usually criminals do not like to present their biometric because it is the easiest way to intercept them while committing crime. And this national identification number that the federal government said you should submit, it was assumed that you must have it with you. Because the law establishing NIN and the national identification number, the law was approved in 2007. And the law gave only 60 days to citizens to obtain their national identification number. If a child is born he is given only 60 days to be registered. In the condition of necessity, it can be extended to 160 to 180 days maximum. But there is no justification for you not to have it after these days. The law has been in place. And under the law, which has been approved by the National Assembly in 2007, Section 27 of the law says, mention certain services that if you do one of them without obtaining, you have committed an offense. Obtaining voters card without it, the law says it's an offense. Opening a bank account without national identification number is an offense by law. Getting driver's license without NI number is an offense by law. Enjoying any government service without it is an offense by law. Under Section 29, the law says, if you partake in any of this under 27 without this NIN number, you have committed an offense that you can be fined or sanctioned or in prison or both of them. This is the provision of the law. That we must do that. When the process of issuance of NIN started, I was not in Nigeria, I was in the United Kingdom doing my PhD. But I came into Nigeria purposely because of NIN, and I obtained the number and I went back to the UK. And not in 2015, even before the coming of this administration. In order to comply with the provision of the law, I got a ticket from the UK and I came to Nigeria and I obtained it and I went back. So what brought me to the country is just to obtain it and went back. Not any responsible country will sit down without having a complete database. As I have given an example, it's the same with social security number in the US. You cannot go and patronize government services there without it, if you are a citizen or legal resident. I lived in the UK. I had to obtain national insurance number, and I have it to date. Why? Because it's mandatory. There are government services you cannot enjoy without it. These are countries that have 99.9% complete database, but yet they don't allow. Why? Because it's critical to whatever government does. It is because of this the current administration came up with national policy, and within a year, the policy was revised. We developed the policy in February 2020. By March 2021, we revised it. Because why? We discovered criminals compromise certain areas. So we had to review it and ensure that it will not be compromised. And it is because of this, the federal government came up with so many provisions in the policy to ensure that the policy will support our country in so many areas. Furthermore, to ensure that there is data confidentiality and privacy, as in the Constitution of Nigeria, Section 37, I personally led a team that produced the first ever data protection regulation for Nigeria. Not only for Nigeria, it is the first data protection regulation in Africa. It is indeed a subsidiary legislation. We developed Nigeria Data Protection Regulation. Many African countries have developed it, but it was after we developed our one in Nigeria. Why? To ensure when citizens provide their biodata and information, there must be privacy and confidentiality. For example, an access to our database in use under the federal government without authorization, the provision of the law, one can be imprisoned for over 10 years or thereabout, just an access to it. Why? Because confidentiality and privacy are key. When government collects data, there must be a provision of confidentiality and privacy. And we did so not today, since 2019. It was the foundation of what we have been doing. And it is in history that no institution has ever been sanctioned because of collecting data or releasing data without authorization until under this administration. An institution was sanctioned with a huge amount of money to pay. Why? Because they release data of our citizens to public without authorization. It was the first one. And it is in line with the Nigeria Data Protection Regulation, which I led a team that developed it. These are some of the initiatives of the current administration in order to support our security institutions to make them very effective. The institutions or the sector has been supporting them in so many ways, but security issues are not always discussed in public, and I will not go beyond this. Thank you very much for listening.
Ladies and gentlemen, although the professionals should do better than that, I thought we would have a proper standing ovation. Have you not displayed intelligence? Have you not displayed intelligence? That's what I say. You must not judge. You should be objective. You should be open-minded to judge. Can see what the administration of President Mohammed Buhari have done. In one sector, combination of digital economy. Without biasness, if you judge, will Nigeria give this president a pass mark? Have we not done well? Minister, let me talk on about the party before the other one. You see, why your policy is not being appreciated is because of who the president is. You know who the president is? He cares for Nigeria. He doesn't limit it to party alone. That is in the reverse. Our party is not happy. Yes, because most of these policies, like okay, for instance, now you have established 300 ICT centers. Most of our state offices they are not aware, and and that most of the beneficiaries of our program are not those who actually appreciate this government. That's why they don't talk about it. So you will change a little bit so we can be talking about it. Yes. We are your promoter. This is our government. Once you send us a thing like that, let us know. It is our people that we talk about. We will love what we have. Other people don't appreciate. Example, look at the social program of the president. Who talks about it? The beneficiaries refuse to talk about it. They remain silent. But who would have talked about it? We, the party. So give us 60% and throw the 40 to the public. That's the problem. Do you know COVID-19 palliative? Who talks about it? People are collecting 500,000, 1 million. Who talks about it? Civil servants acting like politicians. What do? They patronize their families. And in return, what do? They keep quiet or they blackmail the president. The civil servants. I remember the humanitarian committee is going to Kwago. I have to rush to even beg for a slot of 100. Meanwhile, thousands of people were beneficiaries. Even as the national secretary. Look at this professional, the minister. These are graduates who have been supporting the president from day one. They are unemployed. See the program you have. You know what in this world can fix you. There is no government that will listen to you and not giving you credit for what you have done. Have you ever seen a minister who talk without writing anything and remembering a program? And remember all the programs. Government is about policy for people to keep. Most of the people that came into your program, they don't like you. And they are the beneficiary of the program. Yeah. Please change your strategy. Yeah. You are too good. You are too good not to be appreciated. You are too intelligent for anyone to forget. Remember is that you are giving your policies only the wrong hands. The PDP have given to the program and diving it. You keep talking about open border. Smart people will go and benefit from the border. Your members are crying and they are not talking about it. So let me, I'm not even going to tell for the professional to bring you like technical fellows. Most of the appointments of the president are what they call, they fall under the category of technocrats. So most of them don't understand that we will face election, that on 2023, the most popular, the most lovable, the man with a large following in the history of Africa will not be on the ballot. So it's better for this, meaning those who are implementing his policy, to understand that Mr. President will not be on the ballot 2023. We have to love our party. No one will love you. We have to patronize our own. We have to, Mr. Minister, you are too good to be ignored.
Please, another round of applause for Tony. You know, when I was reading out facts and figures without reading anything, something was just breaking in my mind. When we're in the university, what do you call those kind of people? Somebody say guru. Say guru. Our honorable minister is a guru. Another round of applause for him. We'll be given an opportunity for us to ask questions. 5 questions. But I want to put the caveat there. Ladies and gentlemen, this is an APC event. We have invited this gentleman and lady here to come and give account of what they have been doing. There is already enough attacks, as it were, outside. But for here, we just want to showcase what our government is doing. And so, I will be using my powers to screen out any question that is aimed at attacking any of these public officials.
Excuse me, please. I came along with my colleagues, EBC and managing directors of Galaxy and Beach Concert. The questions that are relevant to them, I will allow them to answer. And a general one can be forwarded to me, there's no problem.
Somebody say guru.
All live to GTV Africa from APC Secretariat. GTV is bringing this live to you for you to have benefit of what is going on. You listen to Mr. Pantami.
So before we start the question and answer session,
I'm sure you are part of what is going on right from where you are on your phone.
The questions are being asked.
And it is also GTV Africa.
There is another sector.
There will be question and answer. You can send your question to will be addressed. And if not, you just follow what is going on in the house. Thank you, Abuja Olamiko, GTV Africa.
If you want to say guru. Thank you very much. Okay, this sector called Yahoo Boys. It's just a question now. How do we stop them from embarrassing the image of this country? That is one. And you know, most of the time I live in the village, we are fast in the village and all that. So during this COVID-19, they now started bringing up issues that 5G is what's spreading COVID-19. Just for the benefit of Nigerians, what is 5G, sir? And thirdly, sir, we want to plead. And thirdly, sir, we also have APC Professional Forum. The training on visa, we have professionals in this APC Professional Forum that can actually key into this training. I will pause for the Honorable Minister to listen to this question. So please permit me. We are talking about Honorable Minister, sir. The last question I asked, or the last statement I made, was that in APC Professional Forum, we have professional ICT professionals that we want to key into this your visa training so that we can all go back to our state government and get contract. So having said that, I will open the floor for us to ask the question. So if you have any question, please indicate by a show of hand.
Where's Samaila Usman? I can see you. And Saleh Mohammed. Yes, I can see you. You can take your question, and the question will be given to him. And if not, you just continue to watch and continue to listen. Kindly share with your friends and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
The chairman of APC, represented by Secretary, SSA to President, member of the CBC, other heads of agencies here present. I want to thank the Honorable Minister for the excellent delivery as just made. Sincerely, I was taken aback because I never saw him going through any written document, and he was able to give us all these facts, which I know we can always cross-check. And he has shown that all the policies he mentioned, it was part and parcel of this policy, to make it a policy. I want to commend you for that. Thank you very much, sir. We appreciate it. We are going to, the time lifespan, we are going to reduce the number of people that ask questions. I want to call on Bode Olagoke. Okay, let's go with you. While Larry is calling, somebody just sent me this question. What is your ministry doing, sir, to track down those who generate fake credit alerts to defraud, especially POS operators? That's just last Tuesday, this Tuesday, somebody was defrauded with 200,000 naira, and part of your fight against countries.
So thank you very much. As I said earlier, as we agree to serve government and we are part of government, it is our responsibility to be accountable to our citizens. Any question that you think is relevant to our mandate, you are free to ask. I don't have any problem. Any question that you think is relevant to our mandate, we are free to answer the question. And it is part of our responsibility to do that. Secondly, many citizens fail to understand the line of demarcation between certain sectors. For example, ICT ministry, or communications and digital economy ministry, information and culture and security institutions. Many people have been confronting us with regards to regulating fake news and hate speech. Fake news and hate speech, both of them are not under our mandate in any way. They are under the mandate of the Ministry of Information and Culture and National Broadcasting Commission. The entire social media platform is not under us, it's called social media. The word media is an indication that it falls under the category of media. So the institution that has been empowered by law to regulate media has nothing to do with our ministry, but rather it is the power of Ministry of Information, Federal of Information and Culture, and National Broadcasting Commission. Because there are two things. We deal with the technology, they deal with the content. We don't regulate content. We don't have the capacity to know this is fake or this is not. It is in Information and Culture NBC where they have the professionals of knowing what is fake and what is not. When they need the support of other institutions, then they can reach out to NCC or Galaxy for the technical support of what to implement based on the provision of the law, not based on sentiment. Two, cybercrime is not under us. anything that is a crime is under the Office of National Security Advisor. Because we already have cyber crime 2015 in place. And that law is under the Office of National Security Advisor. So dealing with the content online has nothing to do with us. We don't deal with the content. The two institutions that have a role to play in fake news or hate speech or anything should be Ministry of Information and Culture, National Broadcasting Commission, NSA, and other councils working under NSA office, because there are councils that brought about all the relevant institutions to work under the same umbrella and all. But our institutions like NCC, the EBC is here, Galaxy is here, MD in each concert. When these institutions want to implement certain provisions of the law and they need technical capacity, then they can engage them that this is what the law says and we want to achieve. What are the specifications? This is where they can come in. But it is not our mandate in any way to handle hate speech or fake news. I hope I have answered the question. Thank you very much. And there is a question asked by the facilitator, I think, on 5G and training. I will allow EBC of NCC to address the issue of 5G and training of the professionals that want to be part of it.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister of Communications and Economy. I would like, with the permission of the Honourable Minister, to observe the protocol that has been so well established, and congratulate the AGC Professionals Forum for this very, very important engagement, and to assure the forum committed, to cooperate, collaborate, in order to bring out achievements recorded by all parastatals under the Ministry of Communications and to the knowledge public. So having made that capture remark, I would like to speak as follows. 5G, we have spoken at length about this important technology, its benefits, the usage scenarios. It's faster than 4G. It is a technology that will change our behaviors, the way we do things, so that those things could be done better, quicker, and with the desired results. All countries of the world are in a race to embrace the benefits of this fifth generation technology, which we call 5G, because of the usage scenarios that I mentioned. In the case of Nigeria, we have, in addition to sensitization of the public, of citizens of this country, about the benefits of this technology, we have also sensitized them about the safety of this technology, that it is safe for citizens to use. All the negative rhetorics about 5G, that it has a correlation with COVID-19 pandemic, that has been disabused. Beyond reasonable doubt that there is no correlation whatsoever between this technology and the COVID-19 pandemic. We have also succeeded in disabusing the minds of the citizens of this country that there is no correlation between 5G and cancer. Okay, because the technology uses a spectrum that is not ionizing. It's non-ionizing spectrum, one which will not hurt stillness, a spectrum that has been established as safe to deploy and safe to use. So after the trials that were conducted in 6 locations of the country, which results we have forwarded to government with our recommendation, we have recently also submitted a 5G implementation plan. Also, the Honourable Minister of Communications and Digital Economy, the federal government under the able leadership of Mr. President, His Excellency President Muhammad Buhari, and we are awaiting the directive of government I don't want to preempt the director will come on this, but I would like to assure that we're ready, to move. We have the spectrum available. We have the mobile network operators that are interested in deploying 5G services in this country, and they are all licensed, by the SEC. And we have a will, public, subscribers out there are waiting, for this game changer, something that will change their lives, beyond, imagination, but in a positive way. So 5G is on its way, I want to assure. Issue of training, yes. With the permission of the minister, I want to state that all parastatals under the ministry do embark on capacity building. All of us, the LCC, NIDA, Galaxy Backbone, we have our own advanced digital appreciation program for tertiary institutions, but we do train professionals like the APC professionals. Yes. So if there is need for that kind of capacity building, we will be very, very happy to send our staff to come here, access your training needs, and set in motion the process for the training needs. The other question is on your POS. Sorry. It's on point of service operators, which is an important component of the digital financial inclusion strategy of government, DPS. So I will. So the government of His Excellency President Muhammad Buhari has set in place a policy, we call it Digital Financial Inclusion Strategy, DPS. This is a strategy that will make all Nigerians, irrespective of where they are and what their circumstances are, access financial services. And that is why you have all these point of services all over the country. Now, the point of services, I must say, are desired. They are all over the country as we're talking. They are normally regulated by the CBN. No service is provided in the financial sector, I believe, without a license granted by the regulator of the financial sector, in this case, the Central Bank of Nigeria. And I believe such complaints as we have had here are quite in order. They are very, very appropriate to be made. Those complaints, should be forwarded to the right, regulator, to the right agency, in order for them to set in motion and quickly to address complaints associated with POS, point of service providers. Very, very important, because government is desirous of making the financial services in this country inclusive, 80% inclusive. That is the target. We're at about 60% as we're talking, and the target we want to hit is 80%. So it is a very, very important strategy of the federal government under the able leadership of His Excellency Muhammad Buhari, GCFR. And I think if there are observations that will ensure attainment of the desired objective, which is 80%, financial inclusion, by the end of this year, those complaints should be forwarded to the right regulator, so that measures are put in place to ensure that this important strategy is not in any way derailed. On the issue of fake news and hate speech, the Honourable Minister has spoken elaborately on whose responsibility it is to contain this menace. In addition to fake news and hate speech, we do have inflammatory as well as defamatory, content, anonymous content on our social media. We don't know who the person is. You don't know who is making the hate speech. You don't know who is making, generating the fake news. So all the NCC does is to provide the infrastructure on which the content is hosted. We are not in any way responsible for what is the content. And I think there is a way, this I'm very much aware, that the regulator concerned can put a mechanism in place to ensure that this menace is eliminated. That we must hold people responsible for inflammatory speeches, for defamatory speeches that are hosted anonymously on our telecommunications infrastructure. This is not good, okay? And there must be some rules of engagement on how this should be hosted. You know, we need to look at what is in the content before permission is granted for hosting it on the telecommunications infrastructure. And I think the regulator concerned is aware about this important responsibility. We're not casting any aspersions on the NBC. We know they have the capacity to do what is necessary in order to make the social media space safe, better, and one that is characterized by a responsible attitude.
I think what we need to do is we need to ask questions. Larry, please.
Yeah, my name is Larry Oluyi. I report for Nigerian Pilot newspaper. So I'd like to know, just as you alluded to, you said that the telecommunication sector is a very huge sector with so much potential. And I remember when GSM came around 2000, 2001, what we learned then was that the initial service providers were given a period of 5 to 10 years so that without competitors, so that they can recoup their investments. Now, about 20 years after the introduction of GSM, we still have only 4 operators, 4 service providers. Why? For a sector that is this huge. Then the second question is about the SIM registration that the minister mentioned. You said as of today, there is no unregistered SIM card in operation. But today, we still have kidnappers, kidnap people and make calls every day. So why is it so difficult to track these kidnappers if all the SIM cards are registered? Thank you.
Okay. My National Secretary, good afternoon, sir. My question is to the Honorable Minister. My name is Omeza Ajayi, Vanguard Newspapers. You talked about the NIN, National Identification Number, being a requirement for voter registration. Of course, I think that is part of the NIMC Act 2007. But as a political correspondent, I'm worried because when you look at Section 10.2 of the Electoral Act, the NIN is not one of the requirements there. You have birth or baptismal certificate, national passport, identity card, or driver's license. So then, when you look at the Constitution 2, which is the ground north, so it's not there. What is there? It said or, not mandatory. Or, so you can have either of those other documents, but it's different from what is in the NIN Act. And when you look at Section 77.2 of the Constitution, the only provision here is age. That every citizen of Nigeria who has attained the age of 18 years, residing in Nigeria at the time of the registration of voters for purposes of election to the Legislative House, shall be entitled to be registered as a voter for that election. Now, the Constitution is a ground number. This is what it's saying. What are you doing to ensure the harmonization of these laws so that we don't have conflicting laws?
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon. My name is Kayla Mabam from Channels Television. Senator Akpan, my question actually goes to you. You made a very interesting statement while the conversations were going on. We were talking about the government's interventions. You started off by saying that Mr. President is very kind and because he's kind to the Nigerian people, he's not well appreciated. And you did say that 60% of those interventions should go to us, and the others should go to the public. We would like to get an elaboration of what you mean by that, Senator, and a response probably from the minister on that matter. Secondly, they talk about. Secondly, there has been a lot of conversation about moving the presidency to the south for 2023. That's something that the All Progressive Congress is looking at. Thank you.
No, allow her, no problem. China. So, now, can I ask you a question? My name is, excuse me.
Yes,
can you name the sincere social program of this government?
Oh, yes, of course. There's so many social intervention programs. Especially there's the payroll support system, which a lot of Nigerians are excited about. I just told you one.
Okay.
The payroll support system that helps people during COVID.
Now, do we have the right to complain as members of the party who voted the president?
Well, we do. I didn't say you didn't have a right. Now, so I just want you to elaborate on your
I want to go ahead. Now, I'm speaking on behalf of, I'm not speaking as Senator. I'm speaking as a national secretary that people complain to. A reward system. I said the president, yes, he has been voted to take care of all Nigerians, trust me. And that does not mean that they should exclude us. I said we should be included. We should be included. Because you cannot cry more than the bereaved. We are the bereaved, or you cannot be more Catholic than Pope. So what we are saying is that so that we will propagate his program. If, for instance, now, members of these parties are angry to even discuss it. They don't even talk about the president because they are not the beneficiary. They behave as they are not challenged. They give their ears to it. They know he exists. But sometimes in the process of selection, you might call it corruption, but we also need to be proud of our own. That's why we work day and night to put this government in place. That's why people work. That's why people work day and night for this government. And I'm saying that ministers should also consider the party. Because like we're going for election, they are not going to ask this minister here, you can see the very big answer. He will not be on the field. When I'm saying, I'm speaking on behalf of my people, that we need to be beneficiary. How you are going to do it? Let us be a partaker. That's all I'm
We are online, and one of your listeners from China, Mr. Gogo, says, "Good afternoon. I'm watching from China. I would like to ask regarding the NIN linkage with phones number. Some of us are out, and we wish that we link our phone. How can we do that?"
Okay. I would like to respond to the question on more service providers, MNOs, that is, in the telecommunication sector, and to assure the gentleman who asked the question that the federal government, under the leadership of our Mr. President, His Excellency President Muhammadu Buhari, has in fact incentivized entry into any sector of the economy.
Coco, so your question has been asked and it's expected that reply will be given. So listen.
And enter any sector of the economy, and indeed the telecommunication sector, in order to provide telecommunication services. And government, through the economic recovery and growth plan, which is another policy of government, has in fact reduced the income tax that a new entrant into the market should pay by 30%. So we call it pioneer status incentive, to encourage new entrants into the market, to come into the market and provide services. the more the service providers, the better the competition in the market. Okay, and consumers will have an opportunity to subscribe to the service that gives them value for money. So there's no restriction to the number. If you are preferring to come to join the telecommunication sector as an entity to provide telecommunication services, you are very much welcome. If you, through your associates, want to convey this information to them, entry into the market is still possible. In fact, government has also relaxed the barriers to entry into, virtually all sectors of the economy, courtesy of many other policies. What you need to do is to visit the Nigerian Investment Promotion Commission to get information about these various initiatives and incentives provided, by government. There is a question on the correlation between kidnapping and SIMs. Excuse me. Every SIM, every registered SIM, has the biometric and demographic data of the holder captured. Once such a SIM is used to perpetrate any crime, we can easily, through information in the database, the SIM database, be able to come up with the identity of the person who perpetrated the crime. And the response time is so short. We have been doing that all along. This is information that we don't want to be making public, but because it is necessary here to disabuse minds that indeed the Federal Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy, through the NCC, is alive to this important responsibility of containing crime of all forms. Once these crimes are SIM-based, we provide information about the person committing the crime is within the shortest possible time to the kidnappers. When they kidnap their victims, they change tactics. Before, they were making calls with their own handsets. Now they are using the handsets of the victims. So when you visit the database, you come up with the same information that I've been telling you about. You have the picture of the victim, you have his address, but then it turns out this is information about the victim, not the person who kidnapped him or her. Okay? So, but still once a call is made, we can be able with accuracy to establish where that call is. It can be tracked with with such precision that we can specifically say this call is coming from Suleja and so location is Suleja. So we still provide usable intelligence information to the security agencies in order to really reduce instances of kidnapping, even though the pictures of the victims normally come up when we search the database instead of the person committing the crime. And I believe the security agencies have also been given what we call lawful interception capability. They are licensed to intercept any message, any transmission from anywhere in this part of the country. And again, this is information I'm not supposed to be making public. This is highly classified information. And I'm just trying to assure you that all the security agencies are alive to this important responsibility. It's just a time, takes time, maybe to get to the victims, but the information that will lead to where the kidnappers are is information that can be gathered easily, and this is information that can be digested and used in order to trace, the kidnappers. Okay, so but they keep changing tactics, and I believe the security agencies are also changing tactics in order to make us safe. Right. NIN, I think the Honourable Minister is the most competent person to speak. Initially, for NIN registration, we have 4 ways of identification. Okay, voter's card, passport, driver's card, and I think there's a post one, an identity card issued by your organization if you are an employee. But of recent, government came up with harmonization of citizens' data. okay, which makes it mandatory for all citizens to possess a NIN. And I think we're going through the motion of explaining why the NIN. You know, why all subscribers need to tie their same cards, you know, to their NIN. Okay, we're at about 56 million, you know, so far citizens have acquired their NIN, and because an average subscriber has maybe about 2 to 3, you can be able to count the number of SIMs that are now tied to NIN. They are in excess of 150 million, which is quite a large number. So, you know, progress has really been made. And why this approach is adopted by government is a desirable process. It is to ensure the security of our students. The criminals are finding it difficult to come forward to register for their needs because they know they will easily be found out if they commit any crime. So that was the reference that Honorable Minister made, that there was, you know, a palpable reduction in crimes, kidnapping and other, you know, forms of crimes through the introduction of this laudable policy of government, that is the National Identity Number Policy. Thank you very much.
Please, let me recognize the DG of NITDA. I was supposed to be a board member there. You know how to lie. Is that it correct? Am I right? Okay, not here. Okay, who is not here? Who is here? Who represented? All right. You are recognized. I wanted to recognize you. Board of that, please.
Okay.
Let me respond to the last question left for me by EVC. And I do hope I will answer the question for the last time. The issue of, I think the question has been asked by the reporter of the channel's television. Also the fact that I think newspaper with regards to the requirement for voters registration. Firstly, I'm not here speaking on behalf of INEC. Secondly, I'm only explaining the provision of the law. However, I'm not a lawyer, but I have been supported by lawyers in whatever I do. So because of this, I'm only conveying what I have learned from them. We are here with another lawyer, Barrister Ahmed Ismail Ahmed, which I believe he can support us. The questioner said, Electoral Act under Section 10 outlines the requirement for voters registration, which I strongly agree with what he has read. The requirements mentioned there, that is the document required for the registration, 3 have been mentioned in the law. Number 1, as it is stated, is called national passport. Number 2, identity card. Number 3, driver's license. These are the 3 mentioned there. In law, they have what they call law of contradiction and law of reconciliation. That is a situation where 2 existing laws are conflicting one another. You are not in any way just to discard any one of them and take your interest, but what is mandatory is to reconcile both of them, because none has been amended. The reconciliation there is very clear. Firstly, he said national identity card has not been mentioned. This is where I disagree with the questioner, because ID card is national identity card. And what is for national identity card is not just your image, but rather that unique number. So firstly, national identity card has been mentioned, and by implication, NIN has been mentioned, because what makes your national identity card legal is the number which is unique to you. Secondly, in reconciling it, since 3 requirements, either of them has been mentioned as requirement, then I can say to you, firstly is national passport. It is a requirement by law that national passport card should not be given to anybody without national identification number. So if INEC says, based on the Electoral Act, that passport is a requirement, then that passport cannot be obtained without national identity number. So national identity is the primary requirement, while passport is the secondary. And it is today, you cannot go to Abuja and obtain passport without NIN number. So you see the reconciliation. And driver's license by law under NIN Act Section 27 that no driver's license should be given without NI number. And recently, FRI has announced officially, Federal Road Safety Commission, they announced officially that NIN is a requirement for the issuance of what? Driver's license. You say the reconciliation. So all the issues you have outlined there, they are not to be given to you without the NIN. Are you following? NIN is a requirement for the remaining two. So this is the reconciliation. Furthermore, to show to you that NIMC manages the primary database, if you look at the composition of the board members of NIMC, it's enough to explain to you what I'm explaining now. The members of NIMC board as of today, National Security Advisor Office is a board member of NIMC. Police Force, National Police Force, Nigerian Police Force, sorry, is a board member of NIMC. DSS is a board member of NIMC. Institutions collecting data, like CBN is a board member of NIMC. Nigerian Immigration Service is a board member of NIMC. INEC is a board member of NIMC. Road Safety is a board member of NIMC. Are you following? Federal Inland Revenue Services is a board member of NIMC. So if you look at all the security institutions and all the institutions collecting citizens' data are the board members of NIMC. Why? Because it is the primary database that they are forced to make use of it. And it is the mandate of NIMC to harmonize all databases in the country. It is their responsibility. Today, if you need driver's license, your biometric will be asked for. If you need passport, they will ask for your biometric. If NIMC database is complete, you don't need to go anywhere and present, because they are the board members and they are the ones who manage the database of NIMC. Because the database is under the commission and the commission is represented by the board. So they manage the database. So by providing your biometric there and all the required information, we do hope a situation will come that you don't need to go anywhere to provide your biometric. For example, today in JAM, they said to our children, if you get your national identification number, just send it to us. You don't need to send anything. Even your name is not required. Just send your NIN number to JAM. JAM will get your authorization in person and they will access your information from NIMC database. So you don't need to do. Only send them your number. That is enough. Are you following? So it is because of this, there is no contradiction in the requirement. All the remaining two you have mentioned, you cannot obtain them without national identification number. And it's one of the major achievements of this administration. By the time we came, the database was almost empty. As at 2020, when I took over the database, as at even 2020, which has been 13 to 14 years in existence, it was only 30-something million. But today we are over 56 million. As at today, it's over 56 million. So at least we are making progress in spite of so many constraints like resources and many more. NIMC doesn't have resources, but we try to continue to drive the process for the benefit of our country. And I do hope I have answered your question. Thank you very much.
Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we are approaching the apex of this very important meeting. But before we go, I'd like to invite Barrister Ismail Ahmed to give a goodwill message on behalf of the entire Haiti group. Thank you very much.
The National Secretary. Okay, I know this is a press event, but I will do what you do because this is a party. So please permit me to say ABC. Not change over. ABC progress. You want to change the minister? Or you want to change the secretary? ABC
ABC! 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 I just want to remind everyone that you are in the ABC secretariat. The National Secretary, representing our able national chairman, the Honorable Minister, the EVC, the MDs, the Senior Special Assistant to the President, who is my senior colleague in the villa, but my junior in the party. Who were from the same state. Coincidentally, I'm also from the same state, the EVC, and I'm very proud of you. This, I have to be here, the Professionals Forum. Agin has been talking to me about it, this party, and we thought it was a good idea. And when he mentioned it to me, I said, and if the secretary confessed, he knows that I have mentioned this several times in our meeting. They need to bring in ministers and heads of agencies to come and speak to us as a party. So this is what you are doing. It's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful document. I want to thank everybody in the press corps that are here. I want to say Madam the last, Dr. Pantami. He's my older brother. He is someone I'm extremely proud of. Even if I'm not a member of the NWC or the technical committee, if he's going to be here, I would have been here because I know I want people to be dazzled the way that we are dazzled in private when we're speaking to people. And I know no matter what you may say or you may think in your head, you cannot leave this place without saying that, you know what, President Muhammadu Buhari has appointed an incredible person. Not only does he know his onions, but he has the three criteria of what leadership is. He knows what he's doing. He has the emotional quotient to connect it with the people, because that is what is missing with a lot of people. And he has the political sagacity in the bar of religion and education. Yes. To understand the need to connect with people in the way they will understand and simplify it. So I am very proud. I am very proud of Madam Doctor. We like to call him Doctor in Palace, but we call him Madam in private. Because he teaches us every day you sit down with him, you learn. I was with him yesterday in his office. I have learned a lot of things, and I'm very happy that a lot of people are taking away a lot of things that they have learned from him, both in the communication sector as well. His MDs and the EVC will confess to you, incredible gentlemen and lady as well. I've sat down so many times in many programs of the communications ministry, all incredible people. The DG of Media is somebody that has visited this office several times because he's one of the young ambassadors of the progressive movement, and we are very proud of him as well. So this has been a wonderful event, and I hope all ministers will accept to come here to the party, because the party is the platform that brings government. It is very important that we inspire to you from wherever you are. You know, I always find with technocrats when they tell you we're not politicians. So
kindly subscribe to our YouTube channel.
And every appointment is about political.
I promise you, anywhere happening is going on, bring it to you. And
there is a party out there, you know, because everywhere the president goes, he mentions himself first, and he said the APC federal government. There's a reason for that. So please, when we call on you, we're not going to beg. Please come and tell us what you are doing in our state. Because it is in our state that you are doing it. Because it is us that will go. You may join us in the field to go and battle in 2023. The secretary mentioned it. For the first time in 20 years, there will be no President Muhammadu Buhari on the ballot in 2023. In 2003, there was President Muhammadu Buhari in APP, and many benefited. In 2007, we went against an exiting president who brought in his own successor. There was Muhammadu Buhari in the AAP. In 2011, we had an incumbent seeking re-election, Jonathan, against the Muhammadu Buhari in the CPC. In 2015, we had a president incumbent seeking re-election, We had Muhammad Buhari in the APC, and we defeated them, and we got into power. But for the first time in 2023, God willing, the statistics have shown that 6.2 million people that were born between the years of 2001 and 2004 would be eligible to cast their ballot in 2023. All they know in their life is Muhammad Buhari or any of those big names, and he will not be on the ballot. APC will be on the ballot. If we have rising stars that have delivered, they have to come and explain to us so that we can dissect it to the people. So please, let us not take APC as if it is only for campaign season. It is for us to herald and keep the government intact so that we will deliver, so that appointees can come back, so that we can win so that we can do other people. Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. We are extremely proud. The party is very, very proud of you and all your heads of parastatals and everyone in this government will help you. But when we call you and you don't come, or you think you are not enough, we'll write a report to the president who said, you know what, he's simply not representing us. Thank you very much.
My colleague, the barrister, you will not thank Shehu Garuba. Let me thank you.
Okay,
Thank you for all this. I thank the Shehu Press for. Let me also thank the professional for organizing this. Please, prayers. We have a Muslim prayer, a Christian prayer.
Shall we pray? Shall we pray?
This is where we come to the end of the transmission.
And
I believe greatly enjoyed the event. Kindly subscribe to YouTube channel and be part of it at any time. We'll bring more to you. Thank you so much.
Please, before the national anthem, I would like to plead that the APC Professionals Forum will take a group photograph with the National Secretary outside at the invited guests, please. Thank you very much.